welcome back Mike Birbiglia.
Thank you guys so much. And the rest of the cast, Kate McCucci, come on out, guys. Gillian Jacobs, Tammy Sager, Chris Gethard. Maggie, if Maggie's there, wants to come out too. Maggie Kemper. Thank you guys so much. This is so meaningful that you guys are all here for this.
Well, it was great. So we thank you for that. You know, it's interesting. There's so many questions. A million of them. We have people here till you can line up too, for some questions. But I've seen you on the stage by yourself, every single seat full here. You know, having everybody enwrapped, and this is another experience where every seat was full, watching something. But how different is it for you to kind of? They're very different experiences, aren't they?
It's entirely different. It's really emotional for me because it's not me. It's a thing that about 70 people made together, and including these guys, our cinematographer, our producers, my wife Jen, my brother Joe. Like, it's just a group of people. Our editor Jeff Richmond, who's here. Just like a huge group of people. And you know, with independent film, you know, you see this with so many films that you program. It's like it's 10% money and 90% heart. And so to see that on the screen, it's pretty overwhelming.
What's funny, we're all crying. It's kind of this funny people. I'm not a funny person living, but anyway, so such a movie experience. Will?
That's not a working microphone.
All right.
That's a gag microphone we set up.
That's fine. On set, did any of you have a particularly bad day?
Chris, how come everyone turned and looked at me? Did I have a particular the scene where I cried? I don't. Mike really pushed me. Mike has known me as a comedian for years, and like forced me to actually act. And the scene where I cried, I didn't know how to do that, so I just thought about a series of horrific images until I was bawling. And then we were about to take lunch break, and Tammy grabbed Dutch.
Our first AD,
our first AD,
who I don't think could be here tonight, was amazing and was really accommodating.
Yeah. And Tammy, do you remember this? You like grabbed him and you were like, we can't go to lunch. Look, because I was just in the corner like, and he was like, let's action.
Like, nobody told Chris that we were about to go on break, so he had gone back to his corner of horrific thoughts and had gotten.
That's a whole other movie, the corner of horrific thoughts.
Yeah, that's a one-man show I'm writing.
Is directing that.
Yeah.
Go ahead on this side.
Great job, everyone. I was just curious, what made you pick Naperville as like the city where everyone goes? Is it the Chicago suburb? In case you couldn't guess it from there.
Maggie and I went to college together, and this place Liz, and a buddy of ours, Chris, was in my college improv group. He cast me, and then he decided to move to Naperville. I always thought it was a funny name. I see him all the time. I love him. I love Chicago, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My kind of town.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Hi, so I saw your improv show last night, and you guys as a group just have this amazing improv chemistry together. So I wanted to know what your history was, whether or not you had known each other before this project, or if not, like how you chose who the people that you wanted to be in this very improv-driven movie together.
Maybe Gil or Kate could answer that one.
We can do it together. All right, Kate. Let's tell him. Kate and I had never done improv before. Yeah. We're not afraid to admit it anymore. I had met some people in the cast socially, but didn't really know any of them very well at all, and had never met Tammy and Chris before. So I said Chris, right? Oh. So it was doubly intimidating for me because I'd never done improv, and Tammy and Chris, are you Chris? Okay, Chris and Mike do improv together regularly. Additionally, Tammy was a company member of Second City. Chris has improvised at UCB for over 10 years. Keegan was in Second City. Mike's improvised for years, so Kate and I were really scared.
We brought everyone to town 2 weeks early to do improv workshops, actually with Liz Allen, who's here tonight, who's an improv guru. She's written 2 books about improv, and she really retaught the ones of us who've done a lot of improv and taught these guys from scratch. And I agree with you. Like I love the Commune as an actual improv group. Like our show last night, I really loved doing it.
It was really cool too, because Gil and I were kind of learning as beginners, and these guys have been doing it for so long, and they were learning with us and helping us along the way. So it was a really great support, and I feel like we really bonded in those 2 weeks.
Yeah, like that's what's really been cool about and emotional about the movie for me is that there's the Del Close phrase that improv is something that's never happened before and will never happen again, and that's what making the movie was as well. And so it's like we all became best friends and for this couple months, and it's never going to be like that again. And so it is a pretty emotional thing.
It's also hard to have a bad improv show when Tammy's in the show, because she's the best.
Tammy's one of the best improvisers, alive. So
I just want to say that there was an amazing amount of Kismet with everything with this project. But just down to the fact that when Mike brought Liz, who taught him when he was 18.
Liz Allen, who's here tonight, taught me a workshop in college when I was a freshman, actually.
So he brought her here. She came a few minutes early, and in that few minutes that she came, she and Gillian discovered that they weren't just from the same hometown, hadn't just lived in the same neighborhood, the same street, but actually lived in the same house. And had the same...
Pittsburgh, yeah.
Yes,
True story.
My parents bought the house from Liz's parents, we realized, in about 5 minutes.
Completely coincidental, yeah.
And I feel like there was that kind of magic surrounding it, this whole movie.
Well, for us, it was interesting. As programmers, one of the first films we programmed this year was, thank you, Del Close.
Yeah, which is wonderful,
The Del Close
by the
story.
way.
Thank you,
You
Del.
have to see it.
And you should see it. And it was, we loved it. And it's really about the joy, and it's really about people who are, a lot of them are extremely successful now, but just like, with like no pretense, ragged, spending 24 hours, like the sheer love of doing it. You see then the rawness of it. We love that. And I didn't know what this film was going to be until I saw it, and it was like it's the living embodiment and picture painted by exactly what that's talking about, which was very exciting for us just as a programming thing.
One person who's not going to be here tonight, he's going to fly in first thing in the morning, is Ira Glass, was a huge force in this movie. And just, so a big shout out to him for everything.
He's actually doing he's doing a conversation at the conference on,
that's right.
I think on Tuesday. Look, check your
Kirsch knows, I think it's tomorrow night.
What?
Tuesday, okay.
So in the future, for those who have film, interactive, and
And our
music
cinematographer, Joe Anderson's here tonight, who's amazing. Just so much of the look of the way we shot the improv was so important, and our camera operator, Mike Fuchs, I think is here as well, next to him. And
Our costume designer, makeup artist, so many people.
so.
Go ahead.
Well, first, thank you, just because that was a really genuine and touching film to watch. So I just want to say that. And also, I have to ask, Mike, were you rejected from SNL several times in the past?
No, here's how far gone I am from SNL. When I was like 24, I submitted writing to the show through like an agent that I don't think could get it to anyone. And I don't think anyone ever read it, and that was my only relationship to the show ever. And I just love the show. I mean, sometimes I live tweet it, and I really do admire the kind of live, the sports of comedy aspect of it, that like it's all happening at that moment. And as if my UCB show in New York, which is called Mike Birbiglia's Dream, that Tammy and Chris and I often do, has a lot of SNL people play. Vanessa Bayer plays, Eddie Bryant plays, Tim Robinson. Yeah, I love those guys.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
I was rejected many times.
I could tell.
Thank you so much.
We'll leave it at that.
Do you want the whole story?
No, this I think this. Okay.
His turn. Go ahead.
Mike, I'm from Brazil.
Next question.
Love the jokes, though. Love the jokes, and thank you. Such a great move, and emotional, and beautiful, and funny. Did you guys use improvisations in any scene?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it was scripted improv that we shot, and then when we were in those costumes, we would also film real improv as much as we could. And I like to say that we don't like to tell people which stuff is improvised and which stuff isn't, but some of it's improvised, some of it isn't. So that was, and then in terms of the scenes themselves, they were all written. But I also like to say, you hire, 6 brilliant actors, you get all different versions of what you write. So there are improvised lines in the movie, and yeah, and Chris had contributed some lines from his life, for example.
So I was a guest writer at SNL in 2007. They hired me for 2 weeks, and they were 2 really great weeks. And then about 18 months later, a good friend of mine, that was only 2 weeks, and then 18 months later, a good friend of mine was hired as an actor on SNL and said to me, I really was so close for so long, and there were moments where I thought, if I don't get this, I'm gonna kill myself. And I said to him, 18 months ago, that happened to me. And that kind of showed up in the film.
Yeah.
It was nice to see that get a laugh in 2016, when in 2007 it was the darkest aspect of my world.
That's how comedy works, everybody. You only have to wait 9 years.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you very much. I hope the movie goes over well in Brazil.
Our Brazilian friend actually kind of stole what I was going to ask. I was at your panel earlier today. You mentioned that some scenes were totally improv and scripted, and in between, I was hoping you said then that you didn't want to give it away, and I was hoping you would tell us. So since you're not going to tell us, Chris, can you tell us more about tripping Molly and getting tattoos?
Oh, you're referring to a stand-up bit I did a few years ago where I just talked about falling off the wagon, doing drugs, and getting Morrissey-related tattoos. I don't know if it's totally appropriate to spend time up here right now doing that.
Or can we just talk about how Keegan's not here right now?
Keegan
is that more appropriate?
Keegan had to be back to, he's shooting a film with Bryan Cranston in the morning, actually. That is, by the way, Keegan on the set and off the set, nicest person you could imagine ever working with, funniest person, the best team player, and he was here for a few days. He did interviews for the movie all day, and he had to go back to work. But he's incredible. I mean, and Keanu's amazing. I saw it here last night, so check that out.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask where Jack was, but that guy kind of stole my thunder.
I just want to say that I first met Keegan 17 years ago.
Second City, right?
At Second City. He was in Second City, Detroit, and the Keegan that you see now, exactly the same. Just really, not like then, just genuine and so much heart, and brought so much heart, and he's always been like that, and it's really beautiful.
Keegan and I met, were introduced by our mutual agent, Jay Gasner, who's here tonight, and we met on Skype, we were introduced on Skype, and it was supposed to be a 15-minute talk, and we talked for 2 hours, because we were both obsessed with improv and how the principles of improv apply to life.
Actually, this was going to be my last question. You have the last question, the lady that's sitting there, but I need to jump in with one of my own. So did the premise of this whole film, did it start with improv, or was improv the vehicle, like the community of improv and the business of improv, a vehicle to just do everything else you wanted to do?
It's funny, the seed of the idea came out of my wife Jen, who is, you know, my love, who is here, and is a consulting producer on the film. She and I were at the Del Close Marathon, which is what the documentary that they made it about. And she had this observation after one of our shows, which is, she goes, it's so interesting because your comedian friends are so mean to each other. And your improv friends are so nice to each other. And in stand-up, there's such a hierarchy. It's like, you're the opening act, you're the middle act, you're the headliner. And in improv, you're all equal, and it's so different. And I said, I was like, that's a movie. Like that idea that, because she pointed out, she's like, off, you know, on stage, you guys are all equals, and off stage, this person shares one bedroom with 5 dudes in Bushwick, and this person is a sitcom star and is a millionaire, you know. And it's like, I wrote down this phrase around that time. I wrote down, art is socialism and life is capitalism, and I put it on my wall, and it was sort of the tenet of the film.
That's great. That's cool. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, yeah, I just love improv is the collective, and stand-up is a little bit vicious, I think. I used to study with Del back in the 80s, and I just want to thank you so much for paying, this is such a great homage to Del. And the fact that he's got this other movie out, and then your movie, you mentioned Del 5 times, I was just counting it. I'm just so excited about all of this, and that he's finally being recognized for the hero and the witch and the whatever he was. He's still in the air. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think we can do this quickly, these last two. Go ahead.
I just wanted to pay y'all a compliment and say that the way y'all filmed the improv scenes was like really creative and cool. I thought they like flowed really well, so I just wanted to give y'all a compliment.
Thanks. Thank you. Go ahead. Mike Fuchs, the camera operator, is here, and Joe Anderson, our cinematographer, is here. And actually, I did a series of readings at my house to get the script in shape, where I like 10 or 11 readings at me and Jen's house in Brooklyn, and we would invite our writer friends and actor friends to just read the parts, and Chris and Tammy were at pretty much all of them. And actually, it was Greta Gerwig read Gillian's part, one of them, and I said, "Do you have any notes?" And she goes, "I have one note." She goes, "I wouldn't change a thing. I would spend a long time thinking about how to shoot the improv." And I really took it to heart. And Joe and I spent a long time talking about how we were gonna sort of film it.
Well, paid off. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I loved it. You guys are all awesome and wonderful. I just saw that there was kind of a power of jealousy, or the destruction of jealousy, that you can kind of see in there. I don't know if, like, how do you cope with that, or how do you guys cope with the jealousy that is in the industry?
Thanks for coming out, everybody. I just made the movie. Isn't that enough?
This is a world premiere, first time seeing it. How can people see it? Do we know? And do we know what's happening with it? And
well, our film, by the way, our producers, Miranda Bailey and Amanda Marshall, are amazing at Cold Iron. Our executive producers, Andy Bone and Jason Beck at Film Arcade, produce it as well. And yeah, it'll come out this summer, but we don't know how or when or exactly the details, but you'll see this movie. I'm gonna tour the country with this movie. I'm gonna go to 30 cities and hand deliver it, because I really care about it.
Well, thank you. It's wonderful.